What's up, everybody? Welcome to Around the Paul live after dark. We're so glad that everybody's tuning in and watching us, and we've got a lot of things to talk about and get to on this episode of Around the Paul. And as always, we thank everybody for tuning in. And guys, look, let's just jump right into it. Three's Company was a great TV show and all, but Three's a nightmare right now for the Clemson men's basketball team because, frankly, everybody that they're playing is just raining threes down like it's the second coming of Noah's flood. So you guys were there the other night for the Georgia Tech game overtime. So what gives, guys? I mean, seriously.
I don't know, man. Go ahead, Griffin.
I think you got to start off with the basics, and that's perimeter defending. I think that's huge. You got to look at that. But it's very, very tough to win games on the other side when you can't shoot the three ball. And we talked about it with North Carolina. They shot only 1 3 in the whole game, and they shot like 18, 19 times, which is crazy to think about. Georgia Tech shot the ball. They were 42% from three, 42.9% from three, which is just at a crazy to say, especially for the fact that, you can't win a game, especially when you shoot. Clemson shot 14.3 from three, which, again, you're not going to win a game. That's a 30-point difference, which is going to lose you games. And especially down the line, I heard Cliff every single Clemson possession saying, "Don't panic." Georgia Tech had nothing to lose, and that's why they started winning that game. They started hitting those shots. They stayed composed on every single offense attack. Clemson only scored points down low. They either got fouled or there was an offensive rebound by Ian Shefflin or PJ Hall. They put it back up. There was no heart, no pulse on offense at all, especially beyond the arc. So I think you have to look at that. I think defensively you have to guard the perimeter a little bit more. I would trust guys like Ian Shefflin, PJ Hall down low to grab those boards. But I think there's a couple things you have to look at, but I wouldn't panic. I think these are all fixable, especially for Clemson. I think even last year too, there was a little bit of that skid. They lost a couple games. I'm looking Louisville, but the difference between last season and this season is that Clemson have the cushion of all of their wins over teams like Alabama, TCU. They won the Asheville championship, which, I know it's not big, but they beat teams like UAB and Davidson there. So I'm not worried about this team. I think that they're going to get it together. And Florida State, we're going to learn a lot about this team in terms of coaching because they're a very interesting team stylistically that does not complement Clemson well in terms of how they play. I think those are two teams that will go together, and we're going to find out a lot about how Brownell coaches and this whole Clemson team and how they respond.
Yeah, if you would have told me, here's the one thing I said last podcast. I said, get it down low and we win. Well, we got it down low and we didn't win. And if you'd have told me Clemson would have had 50 points in the paint, I would have said we win. But on the flip side, we can't hit a three-pointer. And we're having trouble guarding, like Griffin was saying. And, it was the one thing I saw is when we went zone. I don't know, but they would, especially in those overtime periods, like Georgia Tech would go down low and they'd score every time, or they would hit a 3-pointer, and I'm just like, can we catch a break? But like Griffin said, man, we got to guard better and we got to shoot the three better. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, if we hit 3 more 3-pointers, we win that ball game in regulation. Just 3.
We hit 1, we win.
Yeah, I mean, we hit 1. Yeah, you're right. I mean, or we block a 3-pointer, man. They hit that 3-pointer at the end, so.
Well, guys, I think what's really, and Griffin, I do agree with you in the sense that I don't think it's time to just full on punch the panic button. Certainly, you've got to be concerned though, and I think one of the biggest things that you should be concerned about is, as Clifton was bringing up, for whatever reason, teams are just lighting the 3-point line on fire like it's a 4th of July parade against this Clemson defense right now. Go back over. I think it's the last 5 or 6 games I saw. It's an absurd stat. I believe the 5 or the last, or go back to the North Carolina game, I think it was, and teams have hit 8 or more 3-pointers against Clemson in, I believe, the last 6 ball games. Georgia Tech hit 15. I think it was 15.
Yeah, it was.
You're not going to win. I don't care how many times you get it down low or get it in the paint. You're not winning many ball games when your opponent hits 15 threes because, quite frankly, if you're trading a 3 for your 2 points every time down the court, I mean, my goodness, that's a 15-point swing right there. They're 15 threes compared to 15 twos. You're down 15 points, and you've hit the same number of baskets that they have. So you've got to figure out how to guard the 3-point line. It all boils down to that, period.
Yeah, I mean, they outscored us by 36 points in the 3-point column.
I mean, for me, and Brownell even added an extra defensive guard in Dylan Hunter. You usually get Chauncey Wiggins as that forward guy, that extra big guy, but Brownell went Gerard, Chase Hunter, Dylan Hunter as the 3 guards, and he still couldn't get it done. So for me, I mean, I'm not pointing fingers. Do I think the front court has to start defending? Yes, I think it starts with Gerard. I think there could be a little bit of a different transition, especially because you go from a Jim Boeheim 2-3 zone, you kind of just guard the block, and that's what you do, and you go to a man-to-man type deal. I think that could be a little bit of a change. I think that is something that not a lot of people are looking at in terms of how Clemson is guarding the 3, but I think that has to be better. It's going to come with time, of course, for Gerard, so I'm not worried, especially. But yeah, I think the 3-point woes are also huge too. Clemson just does not shoot the 3 like they do, and I think it comes with taking smart shots too. There were a couple shots that Cliff and I looked at each other during the game. We're like, why are they shooting that? Why don't you go to the post to PJ or Ian or RJ wide open? But there's a lot of stuff that you need to look at. Chase Hunter too. He was 0 for 5 from 3. I think there's just a lot of things that this team needs to look at and fix. I think they are in a little bit of a shooting slump. Am I worried about that? No, slumps end, fortunately enough. But I think there are a lot of things to fix. I mean, but like I said earlier, these are easily fixable. Another thing too, 3 free throw shooting. And Clemson could have won the game. Chase Hunter went to the line. They were up 2. He only hit 1 free throw. Down 3, Georgia Tech hit the 3. That's how overtime happened. First overtime, Georgia Tech were up 1. PJ Hall went to the line. He missed his first free throw. Hit the second, went to double overtime. If you hit 2 free throws in either of those games, we would not be kind of in this little mood of what the podcast is. But that's another thing. You just have to hit those shots when it matters. And, Clemson wasn't able to do that and created a little bit of panic, a little bit of, stirring up in the Clemson bench. And that's why Georgia Tech were able to take that win. And that's fair play to them. They were able to kind of weather the storm and turn the game into their favor. And Clemson needed to do a better job of putting that into their own hands.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, there were a couple shots from 3, like you were saying, that I was just like, why? And when you could have gone underneath and gotten 2, there was one specific one in mind that I can think about. And PJ Hall, we were down by I think we were down by 2, maybe 3, because it was in the overtime, one of the overtimes, I think. And PJ had established himself on the block. He was open. He could back himself in, and Gerard took a stupid 3. And I'm like, the PJ is wide open. You get your best player the ball, and PJ is our best player. And we could have cut it to 1 and then come back down, then played good defense maybe. I don't know. The way they were shooting, you never know. But we could have come back down and taken the lead. But I hindsight's 20/20. Whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, and look, we're going to talk about some positive things, and rest assured, there were positives that came out of that game. But another thing, and I told Clifton this earlier today. We were talking on the phone, and I said, I'll be perfectly honest. I was sitting on my couch and I was watching the game in between trying to catch up on some work on the computer. And, I was watching pretty intently. And we go up. I believe the score was 68-59 with 1 minute and 33 seconds left in the game. And so I just kind of turned the volume down on the TV and went back to my work and like, oh, hey, big win, man. 9-point lead, 133 to play. We got this in hand. We're good. I looked up about a minute and a half later and it was 68-65 and there's still a minute left in the ball game. And I'm just like, oh my God, what in the world is going on here? And then, of course, the rest is history. But, you're not shooting the three-pointer well. And then you put yourself in a position down the stretch of regulation or in the overtime periods where you had to take a three. And then you're setting up and you're making PJ or letting PJ Hall shoot the three. And, that's look, PJ Hall is our best player. I agree 100%. But that's not fair to PJ. PJ can shoot the three. I've seen him do it since he was 15 years old. But that doesn't mean he needs to be the first option or who you draw it up for to shoot the three. Because, look, 31 points and 17 rebounds. When you get that from your best player, that should have been enough. Unfortunately, on that night, it wasn't.
Both career highs, by the way. First 30-point score for Clemson since Hunter Tyson last year. That's huge to know. But PJ did none of that, and he only sank 1-3. That's all you need to know about what he played. He dominated the post, and that's why I was confused why they didn't feed him more in the post. Even down the road, in the second overtime, Georgia Tech's top rebounder, Bandongo, fouled out. He fouled out. And you have PJ Hall, Ian Shefflin, he was cramping up. I do understand that. Throwing a guy like RJ Godfrey, it's three guys who know how to get to the basket in the post compared to a Georgia Tech team that doesn't have their top guy in the post, which I was confused about. I don't know why PJ, put up his signature hook or whatnot, but I don't see PJ Hall shooting the three unless it's a pick and pop. I mean, he had so much success at the beginning of the season where being the first guy off the pick and finds an open three, takes it, sank it every time. I once again, I really think that this is fixable. I think that they'll get out of the slump because 3-point shooting is very streaky. It's not a great way to play, in my honest opinion. But I love what PJ is doing in the post, and that's one great takeaway to take from that Georgia Tech game was his ability to create space and use his post moves to achieve his career high.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know what to say. That when we lost, I was just like, man, this is bad. Like but the crazy thing is this is the first bad loss, right? This is the first bad loss we've had. Besides North Carolina, that's a quad one win. I mean, that's a quad one game, right? Like, but if we hit our threes in that North Carolina game, we win the game. And but we have to work on our three. We have to get our groove back. What's that movie? Somebody got the groove back. That's what we need to do.
Stella got her groove back.
Yeah, Stella got her groove back. Something like that. It's before your time, Griffin. But
I think it was Whoopi Goldberg. Don't quote me on that. I believe it was Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah. But Clemson just needs to get their groove back when it comes back to shooting threes. Like they need to get back to the way they were doing in the beginning of the season when they were 11-1.
Yeah, and look, you don't say this too terribly often, but in terms of basketball this year, the ACC is really down this year in terms of basketball. You've got two ranked teams right now. North Carolina's ranked number 4 in the country. They're on an absolute tear right now. And then you've got Duke, who's I think they're just inside the top 10 maybe. They're a good team as well. And then you've got some other fringe top 25 teams. But if there was ever a season where Clemson could absorb a few losses in ACC play, for whatever reason, it's this year. Look, if you recover, you get hot, and you reel off a string of wins, you're climbing your way back into finishing in the top 3 or 4.
I completely agree. And I think it's a great start. I mean, if there was any time Clemson would get in a slump, it's now in the middle of the season, where last year you were penalized because you weren't able to start hot. And they were able to get hot towards the end of the season. They were able to make the ACC quarterfinals, and they had a bad loss to Virginia, which was able to cost them their NCAA tournament berth. I think it's perfect. I think you have to finish well. I think this team will finish well. They only have to play 2 top 25 opponents. One's next weekend After that, you should have North Carolina at North Carolina, which is going to be a very, very tough game. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, I really think that this team has what it takes to strive to be one of those top teams in the NCAA tournament that could go under the radar. They have the star power to do so. They have two incredible guards. They have one of the best centers in the country who was just listed as a top 25 guy for the Wooden Watch, which is an incredible accolade, especially if you play basketball for Clemson. But it starts with Florida State on Saturday, and you got to go from there. And if you're able to get big wins against teams like Duke, if you're able to get North Carolina at North Carolina, get their revenge back, Virginia, Miami, you're able to beat NC State at home, which I'm not saying they're got to win all of those games, but you got to pick a couple of those because, it's going to show on a resume come March. And if you can only get big wins at the beginning of the season, that's going to hurt you. So I'm not worried. I think that they're going to get some big wins down the road and go into the ACC tournament as one of the hottest teams in the conference.
Yep, I believe that.
Yeah, and you've got an opportunity to do it for sure. Look, I think I'm not sure. Do we play Boston College again? You've had a big win over them, and there's just some teams there that are ripe for the picking this year. That for reasons that we don't follow as closely, being Clemson guys, they're just a little bit down this year. So look, the opportunities are ample. They're there. You can climb back into this thing. You can get a top 3, top 4 seed in the ACC tournament, and if you do that, then look, all your cards are still on the table. You're still holding a pretty good hand, and you can kind of control your destiny. But the fact remains, you don't want to let this slide keep going too much further. I mean,
No.
You need to put a tourniquet on it and stop the bleeding right now, because if you hemorrhage too much more, then you start to talk about getting yourself into a hole that's going to be hard to get out of.
Yeah, and don't overlook Florida State, because they just beat somebody. Miami. Yeah. And when I was watching them, they were beating them pretty good. I don't remember what the score was, and I don't remember what the half was, but they were at least up by 9 or 10 points, maybe. And I don't know what the final was, but they had a 4-game losing streak, and they've come back, and I think they've won a couple, maybe 2.
5 straight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. They've won 5 straight. I do remember hearing that. And so if they can come back from losing 4 to winning 5, then we can do the same thing, because we're 1-4 in the last 5. But, we can come back and get on that tear again. I truly believe it.
I agree. And honestly, I think Florida State, I know that there is a turmoil behind Brad Brownell. I think that he should stay, but I am severely monitoring this Florida State game, and this is why. Florida State, they run a very deep lineup. They run 11 guys, 12 guys a game. And in that Miami game, 2 guys off the bench scored double digits. I believe they both scored 16. I could be wrong. And they're top 3 in the turnover ratio. They have a positive turnover ratio of 3, and they have an incredible guard play that's able to disrupt the rhythm. And that's what I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be looking to see how Brad Brownell is able to kind of avoid that turnover ratio, avoid that rhythm that Florida State loves to do, because this is how they beat Miami. They were able to kind of ruin their rhythm that Miami was able to do against Clemson, where they were able to live and die by the 3 and have that incredible second half. Florida State do a great job of disrupting that, and they know how to score points off turnovers, score points in transition. That's what they love to do. And that's what you're going to find. They're kind of like a Virginia type team where they don't have a top guy. Everybody just contributes. And that's what you're getting out of a Florida State team. So that's what I'll be watching out of Brownell, how he's able to, weather that storm, get those points, maybe go to PJ Ian, RJ Godfrey in the post. Maybe that's where you're going to see guys. I'm interested to see how Chase Hunter does too. And, a team like that where they kind of like to ruin their rhythm and disrupt the party a little bit. But I really think that this is a game in terms of how Brad coaches, where may come next season, if he wins this game, might keep him around next year.
Right. And look, you're at a point in the schedule right now where you've got an opportunity to stay fairly rested, fairly refreshed. You play Florida State on Saturday, but then you don't play again for another week. And that's when you go to Cameron Indoor Arena at Duke. one of the toughest places to play in college football. I mean, you think of the true cathedrals of college basketball, then Duke is certainly in the Mountain Rushmore in that category. But if you can come away with a victory against Florida State, which Griffin, you said it, it's incredibly imperative that you win this ball game. But you win this ball game, then you've got a full week where you can just kind of practice, rest, get some guys back up to speed. You should go into Duke on the 27th in a pretty good place at that point, but it's all contingent on winning Saturday.
I think Duke and Florida State are somewhat similar in the way that they play because they like to disrupt the party. Because Florida State are 3 in the turnover ratio, Duke are 2nd, and obviously the Tony Bennett Virginia is going to be 1. But this Duke team very good on defense too, and next week we'll kind of go a little bit more down the line about how Clemson should approach this Duke team, especially after the game and whether they win or lose. But it's another game where, Brad, it's going to be a chess match. And I really think that Clemson have the star power to do it. They have the guys. They beat them last year, that thriller at Littlejohn last year, which was a huge win to define Clemson's season. But I really think it starts at Florida State. It really sees how Brownell is able to coach this team and coach them to a win if he is able to do so, especially in a hostile environment in Tallahassee where they did give him some trouble last season, and Florida State weren't necessarily good. And, they don't really have that guy this year, but they have an incredible team chemistry, which, will always take you far. But I'll be watching both those games for sure. Duke top 10 team, great resume builder, especially if you're able to win at Cameron Indoor.
Yeah, I think this is a must win. I know I know this is early in the season, but at this point, I think it's a must win because, again, you got to stop the bleeding. You got to win. Like, I mean, what are we 1-4 or 1-4 in the ACC? I think right now. Is that what it is?
1-4 in our last 5 games. Yeah.
Yeah, but what are we in the ACC?
2-4 in the ACC.
2-4 in the ACC. So, I mean, that's not even middle of the road, is it? I think we're getting toward the bottom. So, I mean, we gotta win this game. And I agree with you, Griffin and Garrett. Like, I think that how Brownell coaches this game and how he can finish out this season will tell whether he's here next year. I don't even want to talk about that right now because I fully believe that he will be here next year and that this team will make the tournament. But I do think this is a critical game for him and the Tigers and the team.
Yeah, this game coming up on Saturday, I mean, this is the pendulum game. It's a tipping point. It's you're either going to start treading uphill and start getting back toward the top where you want to be, or you're just going to at some point you pass the event horizon to the point where you're not going to be able to stop the slide. And I'm not going to say that you pass that point if you don't win Saturday. You're getting dangerously close if you don't win Saturday. So we'll see how it goes. I agree. Look, this team is capable of coming out and putting up a lot of points, being very successful. They do so many things right. It's just a matter of putting it all back together. And you've got to shoot the ball well from the perimeter. You've got to have that complement to the inside game with PJ and Ian Shefflin. So hopefully it all coalesces on Saturday. You can get back to the winning ways that helps you get out to that 13-1 record.
Yeah.
Now, all right. So we're going to switch gears here a little bit. Before we do, we want to send a shout out to our sponsor, Ardens Burger Grill at 1280 18 Mile Road Central. Go see our friends over there. They take great care of us. They'll take great care of you. Go try their famous double dipped wings. We love them. One of their mouthwatering burgers or sizzling grills. So go tell our friends at Ardens Burger Grill that the crew from Around the Paul sent you. You won't be disappointed, and neither will they.
I was there last night. And it was amazing.
Some things, man, you should just keep to yourself.
I just had to say it. You know that.
Of course you did. Because you like to torture me. You know I like good food. You like to torture me. Nice. Thank you. What guys? We're gonna switch gears here, and we're gonna talk about something. And Clifton sent this to me today, and it is absolutely one of the wildest, wackiest, crazy things that I've ever seen. Now, this is in a world that we're jumping back through the portal into the world of college football. No pun intended, but there's this guy that plays for the University of Miami. Just announced on social media today that he is returning to Miami for his final year of eligibility.
Oh my!
Now, that in itself is not too crazy. What is crazy is his final year of college eligibility.
Just take
ninth season.
Yeah, I was about to say, take a guess. Take a guess, like how many years he's been in college. And the one thing, you know who was in his same class? That was Herbert, that's playing out at for the Chargers, and he's been in the league for 5 years.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Jalen's
Hurts. Class.
Yeah.
This guy, he tied in for Miami. He is in this football season coming up, 2024 football season, will be his 9th season as a college football player.
Yeah. I think he's got a bunch of medical red shirts because the way that they were talking is he's been hurt just about every year, some way, somehow. It's insane.
Yeah, I think just season-ending injuries, but I mean, like, good for him. I mean, I don't really have much to say about that. Could I do another? What would that be? Make for me like 7 years? That would be another 7 years in college for me. I think it'd be time for me to move on with my life. But obviously, you know, everybody has their own life. But I'm happy for him though. He's able to get another season of football. He's been hurt for a while.
Crazy.
And NIL too. I mean, NIL is big now. Maybe you can get some money under your belt. Build your brand. But I mean, fair play to him. I hope he does good. Maybe not against Clemson, but it's cool to see what like you can do now with eligibility and transfer rules and medical records, all that. But
nuts how many seasons that that they're giving him. Plus, and something that gets me is Tunga Tuivaloa, his little brother, asked for a red shirt, a 6th year of eligibility, and they turned him down. But yet they give this guy 9 years. Like, that is insane. I'm sorry. That's crazy.
It's rare. It's rare. Now, you've seen it a little bit more with guys being granted the COVID year. So you've seen a few 5th-year guys, and even rarer, you've seen some 6th-year guys. Look, Xavier Thomas. You know, I thought he was at Clemson for a long time. Just finished his 6th season. Armando Bacot, star for the North Carolina men's basketball team, is in his 6th season in Chapel Hill. So an interesting stat on him. He's actually 4th now on the all-time rebounding list in ACC history. And all he needs to do is average about 5 rebounds a game to finish 2nd all-time. Now, he's not going to catch the all-time leader. That's a bit out of the realm of possibility. But, you know, circumstances and times have changed. It's amazing to see what some of these guys can do when they get that 4th, 5th, 6th years under their belt.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, again, it's brand too. And I know Bacot, he came back because he's promised a lot more money than what the NBA would promise him, because NBA, I wouldn't say he'd be a 1st-round lottery pick. I mean, those guys are always just young or European nowadays. That's just kind of how it goes. But I mean, fair play to him. I mean, he's making the best financial decision for himself. He's making the best decision for himself because he just wants to play ball and he wants to play at one of the higher levels. And fair play to him. I hope he gets everything he wants, and that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to say about it. I mean, I just think it's crazy that somebody's going to be. I mean, yeah, it took me 10 years to get a degree. I get that, but I was working. I was doing all this other stuff, right? Like on top of that, but all he's doing is going to school and playing football. Like, that is insane.
Life is good.
Really is.
Yeah, right.
Well, I saw a comment on Twitter earlier today, and Clifton, it was actually a reply under the tweet that you sent me, and we started talking about this. some very astute-minded individual brought up the point that he's probably taken just about every single class available to him offered by the University of Miami by now. I mean, what more could he possibly take?
Well, they said they said he was taking online courses. He was taking online courses. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of, before you had the transfer portal and NIL and all that good stuff, everybody might remember Matt Leinart when he was the quarterback for Southern California. Leinart was one of the longest tenured college football players of his time and was, I believe, played 4 or 5 years. And at the time, for somebody that was as highly thought of as he was, that was a long time to be a college student. And his final season at USC, and don't ask me how I remember this, but I was watching a Southern Cal game on ESPN or something to that effect, and they said that football season, that semester, Matt Leinart was only taking 2 classes. I forget what one of them is. The other, one of the 2 classes he was taking was ballroom dancing. He was taking 2 classes to maintain his eligibility. One of those 2 classes was ballroom dancing.
Wow.
Probably just getting his master's, I would assume. Probably.
Yeah.
But same thing goes to the Miami guy. How many degrees does he have under his belt now? How many minors does he have? How many?
Look, 9 years, you could probably get at least 3 degrees and 3 minors, depending on maybe even 4, depending on how you play.
Well, they were saying that they were saying that his friend called him Dr. McCormick.
Yeah. Dr. McCormick.
Because he's been in for so long. Yeah, by that point, he might as well have his doctor. Goodness gracious.
I mean, my God, he's probably, he's playing football and is probably older than some of the faculty on campus.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Crazy, man. That's nuts.
Some coaches on staff, maybe.
Yeah. That's crazy. But,
well, I'll tell you what, guys, it's been a fun show. Now, I don't know. We haven't had any questions pop across the wire.
No.
So last chance for questions. If anybody's watching out there, going once, going twice.
We only got one. We only got one person watching. So,
well, to that one person, thank you very much for staying up past all of our bedtimes and tuning in to Around the Paul. For those of you who if you're too square and you went to bed early and you had the early bird special for dinner and you went ahead and hit the hay at 8 o'clock, you can always go back and watch it on YouTube. Yep. And we want you to go on YouTube and tackle that like and subscribe button. We appreciate everybody that has done that and continues to do that. So
for sure.
We've got a lot for you out here on Clemson Sports Media. Go to our website, clemsonsportsmedia.com. We have great content and great stories every single day. You can follow us at CU Sports Media on X, formerly known as Twitter. You got us here on YouTube. So, you look for us, you can't miss us. We're pretty conspicuous. So thanks to everybody out there. But, guys, hey, pleasure as always.
Yeah, 100%. I love doing this with both of you guys. So.
Yeah, it's just been a ride. We've been doing this for 6-7 months now, which is just crazy to think about.
I think this is 34 episodes.
Yeah,
we almost have a full year on.
We're coming up on 8 months now.
Yeah, which is, that's just awesome. It's one of my highlights of the week. I love talking Clemson sports. I love interacting with viewers and whatnot. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, we got 4 subscribers. 4 watchers now. So if any of y'all have questions, give us a shout and right quick, and we can answer a couple questions. Yeah. So we'll answer any questions you got or anything like that. But yeah, we've been on here for almost 35 minutes, so that's about how long we try to keep our shows. So yeah. Doesn't look like anybody's going to ask questions. So,
all right. Well, hey, that's all right. We'll be right back at you soon. Hey, guys, hopefully the next time we're doing this a few days from now, we're talking about a big Clemson victory over Florida State. So we've got that to look forward to. hey, we talked 3 more viewers into existence, so let's talk a win into existence.
4 more now.
How about that?
Oh, yeah. We'll talk
be
a
a fun
win.
game.
Yeah.
Let's hopefully talk a win, but Florida State's a tough opponent. It would be a really, really good win if Clemson were able to do so on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah, let's stop their 5-game winning streak and let's start a 5-game winning streak of our own.
Hey, sounds like a plan. Let's do it. Well, guys, and for everybody out there, and for those of you just tuned in, sorry you caught us a little bit late as we get ready to sign off, but you can go back and check out the entire episode on YouTube. And as I said, tackle that like and subscribe button. We certainly do appreciate it. Thanks again to Ardens Burger Grill, our great sponsor of Around the Paul. And to all of you Tiger fans out there, we appreciate you. We love you. And until next time, it's good night and go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.